I should paste and then rename. Fakespeare. Sound like the bard. Hey, that's funny. I wrote in Iambic Pentameter. All right, and copy that, and then properties. We'll make that our text. Da da da. Hey, look at that. We're like pros, man. Can I stretch it? No, I can only zoom it. If I no, I don't think any of that works. Let me press shift. Look, I can stretch it out. Fancy Fakespeare. Sound like the bard. That's today's episode of Authortube with Ken Poirier, author of such great hits as My Dirty Desk, Love and Hamburgers. Oh, it's reversed. It's reversed. Darn it. You just can't win. And other such greats as Fake Tattoos. It's backwards. It's not really backwards. The camera's backwards. Anyway, we're going to do some Authortube in here in a second. I just want to say that I do these as live streams. So if you are so inclined to watch these live streams, you're more than welcome to. The best way to do that is to ring the bell down. It's reversed. I don't know which way it is. That way, right? That way? No, it's that way. It's like right underneath me somewhere. It's next to the subscribe button. So you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and then you will get a notification, hopefully silently. I know it's silent on my phone. I just, but it'll let you know that I'm a live streaming, so you can check. I'm probably mostly gonna do these Authortube things every now and then. I'll do response videos. I got a booktube response video I'm doing after this. But first, I wanted to talk about Fakespeare, the art of fake Shakespeare, right? So, where was I at? I had to do a thing with the computer. Fakespeare sound like a bard. Is that it? I think that's all I needed to do. Sorry, I want to finish my cigarette. I'm a damn addict to these cigarettes. They help me think though, and I'm out of cream, so I'm drinking coffee with a little Hershey's chocolate syrup in it. That'll get you started. All right. So anyway, doing fake Shakespeare. We're talking about the Iambic Pentameter. This is the easiest way to sound like Shakespeare. It's the writing style that he used. Okay. So if you want something, donate to Wikipedia, folks. They'll never go out of business. All right. Example. In iambic foot, so a foot is a grouping of syllables, and it goes, it's unrested followed by or unstressed followed by a stress, right? So unstressed is like relaxed, and stressed is you put emphasis on it. So da-dum, and it's supposed to sound like a heartbeat. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. So an iambic foot is that da-dum sound, right? That's a foot. Sometimes it's put into parentheses, right, to show that it's one thing. So here you see it with an X and a slash. So unstressed, stressed, right? That's one way to write it. And sometimes people put like a U thing or like a bent line. So it would be like bent line, straight line. There's lots of different ways to write it. It doesn't matter as long as you know it's unstressed and stressed. That's the key, right? And pentameter means pant 5, right? So that's 5 datums, right? Now, if you were to invert this, right? So if you want to do an inverted I am, right? It would be stressed and unstressed. Okay, well, I'll give examples of how this sounds in a second. So stressed then unstressed is inverted, and you can mix inverted and the regular ones together. But okay, let's look at the Wikipedia example. So it's when I do count the clock that tells the time. All right, so you're putting. Ooh, pardon me. So when you're doing the unstressed, that means you're not putting emphasis on it. It's soft. It's kind of relaxed, and stressed it's important. So you use it to highlight. So when you write things, you can just say anything in iambic pentameter, but people won't know that if they're reading your book, and if you don't have the marks, they're not going to know, right? So how do you, as an author, when you're reading something off of page, right, make it so the reader in their head will turn it into iambic pentameter. So you do that in the way that the items that you want to stress in the sentence, right? We'll get into speaking it in a second, but this is kind of a little bit about speaking it, but think about it more like the psychology of it. So when is not important in this sentence, but I am, and it's not what I do, but that I'm doing is what I'm doing, which is to count this article, obviously, good unimportant thing, right? Automatically unstressed, unless it's capitalized, then it would be stressed. But clock, so you've got the subject, the verb, the object. Okay, and then we have a descriptor. So which clock? The one that tells the time, right? To swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells. All right, so now the one on the top, we all have one syllable words. Now we're getting into two syllable words, and where you break that is also important as well. So usually if you have a two syllable word, it depends on the word, but a lot of them, the stressor becomes at the beginning, or if it's a three syllable word, it's usually the beginning and the end, but it could be the other way around. Depends on the word. All right, just think about how you would say it out loud, right? Because we all have the way people stress their syllables is dependent very culturally on the region. So if you're an American and you are not a new immigrant, but you've been, your family's been in America for a long time, and you lived in areas that had low immigrant populations, you have the American sounding English, which is actually closer to Shakespeare's time than modern British English, but that's a whole topic for another time. So anyway, so you'll notice these kind of it's kind of an inherited thing, right? When you have these multiple syllable words where you put the stress. Okay, so anyway, I could go on and on about other languages, but we're just sticking to English because we're doing Shakespeare. Okay, come back mind. All right. To swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells. All right. Um, so you could throw in an adjective to meet your pentameter. Now, which is actually the word I wasn't saying this. We're on the next part. So this is using the inverts, inverted, but you'll see for the most part, for every X, there's a slash, right? So those are your feet, right? And this first one is inverted, right? Because the emphasis is on now, not is. That's a very passive verb, right? So it's very passive. It's unstressed, okay? Just like to or do, okay? Now, so the stress is on now is, right? We all know these we've all heard these a million times, right? Now is the winter of our discontent. Okay, this is a very famous line, Shakespeare, Richard III, which if you want to check out the movie version, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So now is right. So we're taking the audience, we're bringing them in to now. We're now. All right. We're in the now, man. All right. So that's what Shakespeare is emphasizing here. Now is the winter, right? When is now? It's the winter of, okay, so now this is interesting, right? Because you're like, of, well, that's super duper passive. Well, it is, right? But we're going into a descriptor, okay? And so of is the, I want to say it's the, there's a word for it. I'm blanking on it, but I want to say something that's completely wrong, which is it is the conjunctor of the object. I think I just made that up, but we have this objective phrase here of our discontent, right? So which winter is it? It's the one of our discontent. So that you can look at that almost that prepositional phrase. Thank you. All right, you can look at this prepositional phrase almost as it's one giant multi-syllable word. It is acting. The prepositional phrase is acting as the adjective of the winter, right? So which winter of our discontent, right? So that's the adjective modifying the subject. So the whole thing is very important. So you can think about it that way. Um, or it just may be the way it worked out. Who knows? Um, a moat. Okay, this is another one. A moat, it is to trouble the mind's eye. Okay, so so the minds, right? Is that one? Is that one or is that two? Um, well, what it is more like this here. You see this X is in these parentheses here. Um, think of it almost as like a pause, right? So we got 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2. I'm getting confused on this one. It can be weird sometimes, but think of it as almost like a silent, right? So when you see like a space, and you could think of you could hit it or you could easily let it drop. Um, but yeah, sometimes you treat little conjunctions like that still as a one as a single word, single syllable. All right. So let's move off of that ugly thing. This one's really easy. We've all heard this. All right, and this is a great way to think about Shakespeare, right? Is think about the actor on stage who's just being a total ham, chewing the scenery, as they say, right? In all the movies, whenever they go and they see Shakespeare and they do Hamlet, that it's always this over the top performance. And that's not to say we have a movie like Hamlet, which is Hamlet. They'll generally be a little more reserved with this line, but when they're emphasizing in a film that they're watching a play, they'll always have the actor overdo this line. So you know exactly what it sounds like. Right? I don't even have to say it, it's already in your head. To be or not to be, right? That is the question. Okay. Now this is where we get into a little more psychology, right? So that was really hamming it up, right? But perhaps we have this, you see it in these parentheses, it's like a diminished, right? It's like it's left over. Okay. So you got your iambic pentameter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's there, but it doesn't fit into the pentameter. So you'd really let it fall. Question, right? Let that end really disappear. Okay. And this they used to call this the feminine ending or the weak ending. And it can be used as a way to say, he starts off with this kind of bravado, but then it diminishes, right? So it's Hamlet at this time hasn't made his decision yet if he's going to rise up and be the son of a king and proclaim his kingdom at any cost, because it surely seems as if he's destined to lose, right? It's a tragedy. Everybody's destined to lose, but it's his destiny, and the question is, does he stand up to meet it? And he's not ready yet at this point, right? So that diminishment, that feminine ending or the weak ending or whatever you want to call it, is meant to show that he yet doesn't have the mojo, he doesn't have the stones, if you will. We'll get to that in a second, the stones, but the stones, if you will, to fulfill his legacy as the son who is meant to fail in the recapturing of his kingdom, And so here we go. And now this is John Donne, right? And so this is non-Shakespeare. And again, you can see this here where you have a diminished next to an unstressed. So you could use it like that as you kind of hit it real quick, or very weakly. Is the way to look at that. That I may rise and stand, overthrow me and bend. All right. So me and bend is almost like one syllable. Okay, think about it that way. So anyway, so now that we've gotten on to iambic pentameter and we know what it is, now we can go beyond, right? Isn't that what I build this as? Beyond iambic? Let me check. Beyond pentameter. Pentameter. Iambic pentameter. All right. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So, that being said, I need more coffee. Okay. So now, let's talk about speaking, right? So why would you want to sound like Shakespeare? All right. If you're referencing Shakespeare in your work, just use Shakespeare. Why make something up? right? So what would be a situation in which we would want to have something kind of Shakespeare-y sounding, right? But we don't want to actually use Shakespeare. So if in your book they're doing a Shakespeare play, well, you don't have to worry about copywriting because that shit's like totally public domain, right? So you just have the Shakespeare. Maybe you're doing a historical work, right, where it's someone who's in competition with Shakespeare, right? One of Shakespeare's rivals, right? That'd be another cool way to use the Iambic pentameter. Another way you would use it if you're doing like a historical or fantasy setting is you could use it for proclamations. Okay. Um, So in the olden days, they didn't have Fox News or MSNBC. They have a town crier, and the crier would stand in the middle of the town square, and he'd have his proclamation that he got from whoever wanted to make the proclamation and paid him to make the proclamation, and he'd get up and he'd make the proclamation. Okay, so um, now, of course, doing the proclamation, he may or may not write the proclamation, but he would at least know how to make a proclamation that is going to be paid attention to, right? Because that's his job. He's the crier. So anyway, so the crier would say, "Hey, listen, people are gonna listen to what you have to say more if you write it in iambic pentameter, and then I'll have an easy time reading it, and it'll sound really nice. So let's have whatever your proclamation is written in iambic pentameter. If this is somebody who was an elder statesman or some other part of the court, um, a royal family member, whatever, they would have a cleric, a secretary that would work for them who would do just this thing. That would be like, their job to take the king's words or the elderman's words and make it um, family friendly. Let's just say that. It's not really family friendly, but easy to hear over a large mulling market, right? So or cross street or whatever, busy place. Um, Now I used to be an MC in the circus, and this is what we do. The same kind of I am heartbeat thing, right? So, um, ladies and gentlemen, step right up this way. Um, it cuts through distracting sounds, and it brings your attention to the important information. Okay, this is getting into the psychology, why we use iambic pentameter. Okay, um, so yes, that's another reason you would use it. You could have a carnival barker could be using it. Another thing is, maybe you're having a gothic mystery or horror, something along the lines of, Call of Cthulhu guy. I'm blanking on it right now. I'm a little distracted too. They're filming a movie upstairs, so you can probably hear it in the background. But anyway, um, that guy, Lovecraft. There we go, H.P. Lovecraft. So, maybe you're doing some Edwardian, Victorian, whatever, mystery, gothic, and you come across a crypt or obelisk or a tablet or a scroll or something old-timey, and you want it to have that sort of kind of sound to it, you know, that you want just by the words to capture the time in which this whatever it is comes from, you know, with an inscription or something. And you can this is something that you can do to make it feel of that time, right? To make it more real. That's another use. There's probably more. If you think of something else, put it in the comments below. Oh, and I've had some new subscribers recently, and I appreciate my new subscribers. But if you do subscribe, consider leaving a comment too, so that I can thank you in a reply, because I really do appreciate whenever I get new subscribers. Don't forget, subscribe if you want the live stuff, to chat or whatever. Go ahead and ring that bell. I want to get that video from Strangers with Candy, you know, ring my bell. And I don't know if that's YouTube friendly or not, but I don't think anybody's done that yet. I want to be the first, so I got to get on that. But I got to get a copy of Strangers with Candy so that I can clip it, because nobody's got it on YouTube anywhere, as far as I can tell. Yeah. So that's Iambic Pentameter. Now I'm going to show you an example in action here. Now there's a famous play, right? And it's famous not because it's a particularly good play, but it's got a really good monologue in it, right? And it's essentially what it is Shakespeare done wrong, right? And it's essentially every actor's nightmare, you know, is the idea is that you've got to do a play, right? You're like the understudy or something, and at the last minute you get called in, but you never thought you'd understudy, so you never learn the lines, and you're doing Hamlet, and you're trying to read your script out of your prop or whatever. All actors and actresses have something close to this nightmare. Anyway, somebody made it a play about it, and it's called The Actor's Nightmare. You should check it out. And it's very, very funny. Especially the monologue is great because he just messes up to be or not to be and starts making things up, and it's really funny. But anyway, so last soliloquy is I guess technically a poem I wrote, but I was having the actor's nightmare, right? But I wasn't Hamlet. I was like King Lear or some shit, and I had my script in my hand, and I'm hiding it, right? And I'm on stage, and I'm dressed in a king outfit, and there's all these people in the audience, right? And they're all expecting me to say something, right? And I'm trying to read my script, but as you know, in your dreams, it's really, really hard to read, right? I had a psychology professor one time, as I studied neurology. She was a neurology professor, and she said it was impossible to read in your dreams because the part of your brain right, that allows you to process text is not active, and it's part of the conscious mind, right? Um, this is not true. This is not true because it took me a lot of effort, but god damn it, I read out of that script, right? Um, and and I had to because the audience was going crazy, right? I mean, these guys were booing, they were throwing lettuce and tomatoes, they were tearing the stuffing out of the cushions, and those nice red proper theater chairs of the well-to-do, um, theaters in the capital that get all the arts funding, right? So, and they're just like tearing the stuffing out of these velvet chairs, red velvet chairs, and throwing the stuffing at me. They're just so pissed, right? Because I'm up there and I'm just like stuttering because I can't read out of this book. And so it's like one of those Shakespeare read, books that we all had if you were my age as in high school. And so I'm trying to read this, and I finally I'm able to read it, and this is what comes out of my mouth. It's just these first two lines, right? These are the only two lines that I managed to get out of my dream. But the crowd went nuts. They loved it. So of course, when I woke up, I immediately wrote them down. Um, Oh, through sweet brandy wine and red burgundy. Now, notice I'm not using iambic pentameter here, okay, but it still has that kind of feeling to it. So, once you kind of just, if you read a bunch of Shakespeare and get used to this iambic pentameter, you can just kind of get a feel for it, and you'll be able to, especially if you say it out loud a lot, you'll start to get a feel for what it sounds like, okay? And so this is not iambic pentameter. It's like fake iambic pentameter. Oh, through sweet brandy wine and red burgundy, in our hour of divine need, dost thou show such discontent through set circumstance, and yet such wisdom of thought through harsh symbolism dost thou bring. As we drink this bitter comedy and expel the grinded jests in our attempts to consume the jagged meal of loss and sorrow, we find our portions to be too overburdensome to masticate. Teeth shatter and bellies scream with the sound of sucking air. Too long have we been on the hunt of true sustenance. Our bellies fail to remember that taste of vitality, and from our mouths spew the vile bilge of audacious laughter. But laughed not, for such as this is not a time of joy, but of great sorrow. And weep not, for the tears of emptiness will drown to the last breath. Have courage to stand and stretch your arms until the locket is clasped and clasped again. For on this night we shall feast, but first we must sift our meal through the meat grinder of dark thought and contemplation. So anyway, this is like the opening monologue to an imaginary play, a play that only existed in my dream, right? Um, like I said, I only came up with the first two lines while I was dreaming, and then the rest I wrote based on those two lines, right? Um, and then we could get in the whole 14 lines and all that stuff. But you can look that up on your own. Just look up some Shakespeare stuff. It's cool. Another thing that I forgot to mention, and on Retroflect, this is kind of important. So let me point this out. Right here. So notice we have a stressor on God, right? So anytime that you have something that's important and kind of proper name, probably going to put a stress there, and because that's some of the characters are the most important part in any kind of Shakespearean thing or historical thing. You know, yeah. So anyway, that's it. That's all I had to say on Iambic Pentameter. I hope you get this gives you an idea of some stuff that you can do. Um, oh, and one more thing. This is the last thing. So let's talk about that. I said I was going to come back to it, and I totally should. That is this prepositional phrase, right? Of our discontent. Which winter? The winter of our discontent. So, in Shakespearean language, right? We're talking what I don't even know. In the 9th century, the 14th century, beats the hell out of me. But back then, they had a lot less words, right? So the average commoner, the people of the land, probably only have a vocabulary of like under 900 words, probably closer to like 600 words, right? Um, and this is why it's called common, right? Because these are the commonly known words, okay? And so the there were probably a little more words than that, but these would be the words of the royal court or something like that. Um, and so you have a lot of things that are told in metaphor. It's a good way to use a prepositional phrase, right? Um, to kind of you'll see, yeah, that's why there's a lot of metaphorical speech in Shakespeare where they'll say something, reference some bird or something, is because they don't have the words to describe whatever it was that they're trying to describe, right? Or if they did, it wasn't a common enough word that the common people would be like, oh, what? You know, or the word was in German or something, somewhere a lot of our words in English come from other languages where we say, oh, we don't have a word for that. Your word is that. Okay, we'll use that word, deja vu, a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, so so what you'll want to do is when you're writing your Shakespearean sounding stuff, you'll want to make sure that you're not using, some kind of word that is not common enough, right? So so safe things, food words, right? A lot of times people talk about kitchen Spanish, right? In California, there's a lot of Mexican cooks, and a lot of them don't speak English, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are a waiter or a manager or something, and you have to interact with cooks and 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 discuss things with them, one of the things the first words you'll learn are kitchen words, what the names of things are in Spanish, what different types of cooking are called in Spanish, stuff like that. So if you go with the food words, and like uh, my I like to say my understanding of Japanese is I know kitchen Japanese, right? Because I know, I picked up kids books to learn Japanese when I wanted to learn Japanese, and it was all like food and animals and things like that. So anything that's like pick up children's book and anything that's talked about in there, like that's good jumping off point. Um, you know, um, of where you can go. So you could use like a metaphor of different sexed animals. So a cock or a hen, a kid would be a goat, a young goat, things like that. And then you can definitely have, um, you can put some bigger words in there if you want to. Um, but yeah, emotions: weep, laughter, courage, feast, strength. Combinations. This is your chance to really go crazy with the adjectives, right? Because if you're using simpler language, um, the jagged meal of loss and sorrow, right? So we're not talking about an actual meal, right? What you're talking about is consuming your emotion, right? In our attempts to consume the jagged meal of loss and sorrow. Um, it's when you're so upset that you're choking it down, right? And it's hard. It's hard to swallow, and you want to, but you can't. You can kind of sum up that emotional experience with these, adjectives, prepositional phrases acting as adjectives, so on and so forth. Um, we find our portions too overburdensome to masticate. All right. Is overburdensome one word, or is that two? I'm curious. Is that just one word? No. Okay, it's two. Should it be a dash? I think it should be a dash. Overburdensome. We find our portions too overburdensome to masticate. It's you know what I mean. It's a jagged peel. It's hard to swallow. But it sounds a lot prettier. Tattered, teeth shattered, and bellies scream with the sound of sucking air. Right. Again, just all of this is 3 lines just to describe swallowing. Right. So, you're holding your teeth together so hard that they're breaking, right? And your belly is trying to bring it in, and it can't. Um, Too long have we been on the hunt of true sustenance. Our bellies fail to remember the taste of vitality. Our movies suck, bro. We need some entertainment. And from our mouths spew the vile bilge of audacious laughter. Right? We're laughing at crap. But laugh not, for such at this time is not, for such as this is not a time of joy, but of sorrow. Right? So you shouldn't be laughing at this terrible shit. And weep not, for these tears of emptiness will drown to the very last breath. If you don't if we don't get some good shit soon, we're all gonna be very sorry very soon. We're all gonna be watching, what is it, Ass the movie? Is that the one in Idiocracy? Have courage to stand. And so you can't see because the camera, but I'm stretching my arms out. Stretch your arms out. Try it. Have courage to stand and stretch your arms out. Till the locket is clasped and clasped again. So this is a stage direction, right? Have courage. So you tell him the actor, he stands, stretches his arms, and then till the the locket is clasped and clasped again. You're clapping, right? This is all about this guy who has no idea what he's doing. He has to give this performance to this riotous crowd, right? He wants them to clap their hands. For on this night we shall feast. This is going to be a good play, folks. But we first must sift our meal through the meat grinder of dark thought and contemplation, right? So you're gonna get your entertainment, but it's gonna cost you. What's it gonna cost you? It's gonna cost you because it's gonna challenge you, right? It's gonna take you someplace you haven't been before, you're unfamiliar with it, and you're gonna have to think about it. Because if you don't, you're not gonna find your way out again. But if you do, your belly will be full, right? Right? See what I'm saying? So that's that, right? Should I do the beginning? All right, because I skipped it. Oh, through sweet brandy wine and red burgundy. Okay, who's he talking to? Oh, he sees something through sweet brandy wine and red burgundy. He sees something through alcohol, right? So he's drunk. Probably everybody else is. In our hour of divine need, right? We're not in a good place. Does thou show such discontent through such circumstance? Who's he talking to? Right? He's talking to God, right? Saying, God, I'm in this room full of drunks. Why have you put me here? Why am I one of these people? What is our in our hour of divine need? Is our hour, we need you, God, right? Why does thou show such discontent? Why do you hate us? We know we hate you because we discovered it through said circumstance. Because we are in this position, God must hate us. And despite how drunk we are, we can still see this. And yet such wisdom of thought through harsh symbolism dost thou bring. Right? So I'm saying in this line, this is a metaphor. Pay attention. This is symbolic of something other than what I am saying. Okay? Did I create this situation? No. God did. Right? But if we pay attention, we can see where we are and what our need is, and why we need it fulfilled and why it's not being fulfilled. It's pretty good. I like it. It's a pretty good little poem. Why do you say so myself? Anyway, I think that's all I've got to say. That's all I've got to say. I've been going on for 48 minutes. So cheers, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to know when I go live. Leave a comment so I can say thank you for subscribing. If you subscribe, leave a comment if you can think of another use for this Iambic, Pentameter, Fakespeare, Shakespeare stuff. Leave a comment if you liked my poem. I like my poem. I think everybody should read my poem. It's a really good poem. It's like my only real. I write songs and stuff, but this is my only real poem that I've written in like 20 years. But I like it. I don't know what happens in the rest of the play. I don't know what it's about. What is if you know what is the meal that we're going to sift? Is that your story? Is that my story? Is that, oh yeah, now I remember what it was. Is that what happens in Fake Tattoos? Fake Tattoos, that's my book. You should read it. Right now it's free on Wattpad for a little while longer. But eventually and you can get it in print if you want to read it on paperback. You know? Where's Love and Hamburgers? I should put that one up too. Also, on Wattpad, come check it out. Or if you want to support me, you can buy a paperback off of Amazon. No, I don't see Love and Hamburgers. Image. Blah, blah, blah. There it is. Love and Hamburgers. Boom, check it out. Boing, that's my book. It's Authortube. I'm an author. If you have questions about anything, hit me up, man. The best place to catch me is on Wattpad. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed my Authortube live thing and learning about the Iambic Pentameter. I have to do another video too, and it's going to be a separate video here in just a moment. But we're talking about, is there a booktube fringe? Let me turn these off because whatever. Oh, we can put these down here. Look. Look at, yeah. Look at, now we're getting fancy. Now we're getting, this is, the show's over, by the way. I'm just messing around now. What if I took this and it's like, why don't we rename this? We'll rename this. Oops. Delete. Authortube. With an exclamation point. And we'll make that like the thing. Be like Authortube. Booktube fringe. With a question mark. All right, we'll make it bigger. Whoa. We can stretch it out with a bloop. Can I rotate it? Is that thing? No. How about this one? Nope. How about if I hit control? Nope. No, that's bad. Let's not do that. Booktube fringe. Check it out next on The King for Mayor.